Good morning, everyone. This is Douglas coming to you from Cape Town, and today we are talking to Norman, and Norman is in the UK. Norman, where in the UK are you?
I'm based in Shropshire, Doug.
Now,
Midland.
if from London, where is that?
If you headed up towards Birmingham, go through Birmingham, and it's about 40 minutes sort of northwest of Birmingham.
Okay, so you're up north where a heck of a lot has been going on in this world of COVID.
But my county is like a real rural area. So up until about a month ago, we hadn't really been touched by it very much at all. Our numbers were really low. There were very, very few deaths here. And the last month, it's just gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you would have had all around you then, because the north really was where huge flare-ups. I believe it then like a wave then come down to the south of England as well.
Yeah, I've still got a lot of friends from my previous life when I was teaching, and I taught up on the Wirral, Merseyside area, and yeah, they've had a tough time for 9 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Norman, tell us about you. What do you do? And and that ties in with doing homeschooling this morning.
I jumped out of teaching. I was a deputy head in a boys' grammar school for 20 years. And I guess the bottom line was I loved the PE sport teaching bit of my job, but I hated all the rest of it. So I took redundancy and I set up my own company to do a combination of personal training and sort of sport therapy. And I try and do it really holistically, so I don't really split them out that much. So some sort of rehab type stuff, some table-based stuff. And then I fell into the Be Activated world. Gosh, nearly a year ago.
Well, I don't think you fall into anything. I believe you jump into everything. Fall would be like, oh wow, life happens. You know, I think, you know, if we go back to our level 1 in London and we're going, hello Norman, who are you? What did you say on level 1 before we'd done any work?
God, you know, I'm not really sure, because at that point in my life, I was pretty wired all the time. And I'm sure it was probably something quite gung-ho and out there. And I almost have a bit of difficulty these days. I don't think I'd ever experienced stillness until that day.
So we have what happened before is, you know, the thing whenever I talk about you, it's this, the easiest way to describe your world was, yes, you were teaching and coaching, and I remember the conversation we had about you going back to your rugby team and actually having a conversation with them about realizing how you've been coaching. But here's a man who flies to Canada to go and swim in grade 5 rapids because it's fun.
Yeah.
And so you have a story and a lifetime based on being an adrenaline junkie and a needing to get that fix.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sure I came on the course sort of thinking I needed fixing. I don't think I did.
Yeah.
I think I was fascinated with, I'd done some of the RPR stuff as sort of self-activation stuff. And I was sort of fascinated with I understood it changes, you know, doing RPR, I understood it changes you. And I was fascinated with it. So I don't think I came wanting to be sort of fixed or changed in any way. At that point, I mean, it's like...
No. Well, the thing is that the way it works is you only know what you know. And the thing is that actually in saying, when I'm saying you needed your adrenaline fix, we didn't need to fix you. This was your story, and you weren't arriving on the workshop hey, I'm broken, somebody fix me. And a lot of people do, we know that. You arriving going, hey, I'm curious, I'm taking my learning into a new area. RPR's opened something, I want to know where it came from, I want to know more.
I guess the only awareness I had at that time, Doug, to be honest, was I knew that being in that buzz and wanting that buzz most of the time hurt me physically and emotionally a lot. Yeah. And I knew that. I knew I got injured way more than I should. I knew I didn't sleep that well. And I knew that through my life, it had given me quite a deal of emotional trauma that I didn't deal with very well, because it just got pushed away, and I found something else that gave me that, you know, relief from it. And that something else was usually something crazy and physical. And I've done that since.
So outside of grade 5 rapid swimming, what other crazy things were you doing in those days?
A lot of water stuff. Yeah, whitewater was a buzz. Whitewater kayaking. You know, climbing, silly climbs at times.
Anything that had enough risk.
Yeah.
And how did that? And you've also played rugby. If I'm just trying to track back to what I know you were coaching rugby, but you also played rugby, and you had a certain style of rugby.
Oh yeah, well, I started playing rugby league when I was 5-year-old, and as a little boy, I was big. I mean, by the time I was sort of 11, I was the size I am now at 11.
Oh wow!
And I was just, I was aggressive and physical, and rugby league suited me. It was all, at that time, it was all very much smash. And it suited me. And then when I went to college, I sort of discovered rugby union, and I took to that as well. And I became this horrible little back row that all the coaches loved, not because I had any great skill, because I didn't, but I was nuts. I would throw myself in front of anything. I would run into anything. I mean, it's funny now, I've gone back to the short hair, because when I was playing, I had a shaved head all the time, because I was getting so many stitches put in my head, it was pointless growing my hair. You know, and I didn't mind it, Doug. I didn't mind it at all. It was just, that's the way I was. And I think the last sort of 9-10 months, and lockdown has been part of that, I guess, having more time where I've been able to reflect and being in a better place to reflect.
Yeah.
I've sort of been able to go back to where all of that came from, and started getting a better place about what it was that created it, and now being able to sort of take some of that anger out of it and deal with it a little bit better.
Yeah, because if you can take a little bit of the anger out, then there's greater understanding. And and our brain and our neural system is amazing. The minute we give understanding to our history, to a story, it's like we regain the energy and the power that steals from us. Because when we're angry, when we're like this, we're actually, it's part of just to survive. We're just surviving, you know. And I think
that touched on me the other night when you talked about how sometimes your physiology won't let you go to places. And while I was ramped up and buzzed all the time and being aggressive about everything, not always physically, but certainly aggressive in the way I dealt with things, everything was like, get on with it. Level 1, yeah, come on, Doug, get on with it. And I sort of, I now feel I can control this physiology a little bit more, and I can stay out of that when I don't need to be there, I don't want to be there. Yeah. And it has let me reflect. And the bottom line is, it goes back to being about 8 or 9 year old, and my grandfather died, my dad's dad. And I absolutely idolized him. And I didn't deal with it very well as a boy. But I think what really, where the whole anger of it and everything came from was because my dad sort of went from devastation on the day that it happened to back to work the next day. And I understand now, because that's where I ended up, and you get the whole hierarchy
Yeah,
and
push through. Come on, get on with it. Yeah.
and you know, I found that really difficult for a long time when I think back about it, an awful long time, that he could do that, and I didn't understand it. And then as I grew, it became my way of dealing with things.
Yeah.
And
Well, but that is the rule of life. You know, whatever you focus on, that's what you're moving towards. So, you know, too often, and I think this has been the symptom of 2020, is that you can see how people are focused on all the stuff they don't want, all the helplessness. So therefore you feel more helpless. But if you focus on anger and on that, well, you know, you don't go, I'm going to focus on anger and my anger will get less. It's not, you know, it reminds me of something I heard.
you know, I mean,
Sorry,
it
go, go,
wasn't all negative from it, because of course that anger and that drive that it gave me led to me being in some ways stupidly successful at my sport, because I wasn't big enough to be as successful as I was at it and play the level that I played. It led to me being very successful in my chosen career, because I was so driven, but I was driven by anger a lot of the time. And I guess when the pack of cards really fell apart was when my wife died in a traffic accident, like right in front of me. And I had to sort of, you know, end up sat on the roadside with her on my lap, gone. And I had no framework and structure for being able to deal with something like that. So I didn't. I had 2 teenage kids, and I focused everything on making sure that they survived it and came through it. And
so you really did what your dad did.
yeah, history repeated.
Yeah.
And it's only this year that I've really recognized that's what I did. And I had all the sort of, you know, the grief counseling and all of that sort of stuff. And superficially, I suppose I did deal with some of it. And I look back now and I think, yeah, I've had so many of the post-traumatic stress syndrome symptoms for decades of my life. Night terrors. I mean, all my terror dreams, all my horror dreams, all the sort of nightmares are going to, not being chased. I'm not running away from the tiger. I'm in there fighting it. And I recognize it now. And so that in itself has been a massive, massive release for me, that I understand it. And I'm not, you know, I still get my little nightmares and sleepless nights, but I recognize it now rather than fight it.
Yeah. Well, you see, the power there, Norman, is the choice that you have. You know, it's what I really stress for people is, I don't want you to give up your anger. You know, because your anger, as you said, it served you. But the problem becomes, and this is when it's a drug, is if anger is your only strategy, then no matter what the situation is, you bring anger. And so if you, because, and there are situations in your life, in our lives, where we need to bring our anger, we need to bring an aggressive, strong going towards, but we also need to have the choice not to. And as long as you have the choice, there's power. But if there's no choice, then it's very easy to, all, you know, you're always going that way. So it's easy for the world to manipulate you. It's easy for your environment to manipulate you. And when you're looking at outcomes and going, why is this not working? I need to go harder at it, because that's all there is. You know, then not only do we hurt ourselves, but we hurt those around us.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah,
sit back and
and
you go, screw it, I'm not doing this right. I've got to go even harder. You know, it's, and I put up my hand. I understand this. You know, it's in my second year of university, I found a whole question thing, and like in psychology, and I just went through this whole thing, and at the end it went, wow, Doug, you are 100% a high sensation seeker. And what it meant was anything that was ordinary, anything that was just run of the mill, didn't touch sides with me. I'd fall asleep because I'm bored. So I needed to push. I needed to get beyond a certain level in order to get the feel, which meant I created risk, I created danger, or sorted out. I created environments. So I was the driving fast. Okay, wrong. Driving very fast. Um, Alcohol was a great tool for that as well. A lot of aggression, a lot of surfboard breaking. You know, when everyone's coming in because it's getting dangerous, Doug was paddling out, and I had no idea at that point that what I was doing is I was feeding my system. My system said I need to feel. So I went out and put myself in environments so that I could feel. The other people look in and go, dude, you're mad, you're crazy, you're stupid, you're all of those things. But at that point in my life, that was the need and the driver. And it got particularly bad when I lost my dad, because I didn't know how to deal with that. And so I go, no, I had my 10 minutes of tears, and now I've got to make sure everybody else is okay. And so it becomes, if that's the strategy, I can't tell you when that changed, but it changed. But I was always aware that would have been 1992, doing that assessment. That's what it was saying to me. Dude, that's who you are. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Because what was my mantra? Maybe you recognize, go big or go home. Go big or go home means if you're going to do something, go full out. And if you're not going to go full out, don't even do it.
yeah, I mean, I recognize that, Doug. I mean, you know, Sean died in August 1999, and I went back to work as a teacher in September, working as a deputy head, full on 70 hours a week with 2 teenage kids to look after. I was running every morning before work. I was running at lunchtime when I was at work. I was leaving work to go to the gym, and then I'd drink all night and get up and repeat, and do it again and get up and repeat. And that kept me sane-ish and kept me going. But it was
well, the strategy worked because you're here today. You know, and I think this is also a very big part when working with clients, is that when someone suddenly recognizes their pattern, often they sit and go, what have I done? Look at, and I go, whoa, 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 whoa. Your system, its job was to help you survive. It chose this strategy, and this is what you did. So the first thing we have to recognize,
whole idea, doesn't it? That
you are here, you are alive, tick. Now we have the question, do you want to stay there? Do you want to keep doing this? Because actually we can help you be better in this pattern, or would you like to have a choice and be better in the pattern? Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, for me, that whole experience of doing the courses with you, it opened that to me. Because I'd gone then, I was quite happy with the way I was. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the, you know, like you, I enjoyed the driving at ridiculous speeds in my nice flashy sports car, which I don't have anymore. I've got a nice sedate estate. And I was happy with that. But then it opened a window, and like, you don't know what you don't know. It opened a window for me to look through and go, wow, I didn't know that world existed. I didn't know I could live in that world. And I went through and I still vividly remember level 2 being this weird sort of almost like hippie type of being doped and going, wow, man, this is just so cool. The whole experience of those 2 days of the level 2 was just surreal, because I'd never felt like that in my life. And I couldn't quite comprehend it or make sense of it. And I was going back to the flat in London where Lynn and the two little ones were, and going, I don't know what's going on. And they were sort of going, we don't know what's going on. Who are you?
Who are you? What have you been smoking? And can we have some too?
Yeah. So it you know, and so, yes, I get that it is with clients, getting them to, yeah, not feel guilty about all that stuff, and or not feeling like, even feeling like there's a need to do any more, just recognizing that the reactivated stuff changes what's going on, and just recognizing that it changes. And if you like it, well, happy days. You know what to do to get that feel. It's like, and you can do it to yourself.
So
Win-win.
So I obviously have to track back, because we're talking about this beautiful hippie experience on level 2, but we have to actually ask, how did you get there, and what were the circumstances? Because, you know, it's a vague, very clear memory for me, and there's so many awesome learning points in it, but just so I got you up, I believe, for the diaphragm.
I think that was the idea, that we were doing diaphragm, and I did my usual strategy for getting that, as I got myself nicely pumped up, and then you made me wait and wait.
Oh no! So let's paint the scenario. So you're on the table. We do all the pre-testing. The see what's this doing? What's that doing? Let's have a look here. I think I even did, which is the cheeky part, I did almost a light touch through the upside down Y. So your body really was, okay, I know what he's going to bring now. And I could see your whole system, I like that, as you say, it was pumped. Boom, all right, bring it. And so all I did was I sweetly started talking to everyone in the room for 10 minutes, until all of that pumped and all of that adrenaline wore itself out. Because like 2 minutes in, you're almost like, Doug, you can go now. Yeah, sure, honey. And on we go. So what I was doing is I was waiting until your strategy had exhausted itself, so you couldn't use it anymore. Yeah. And it was people often think that I know what the next outcome is going to be. I had no idea. I just knew that if I went in that initial bit, with that being your strategy, you and I would have to fight. And if you and I have to fight, then the only way I can help you is to be stronger, meaner, and nastier than anything you can bring. And there's very little learning in there for everybody watching, because all they see is two guys fighting. That's just so normal, stupid. But if we can take a step back and go, what are we trying to do? We don't want to meet you at your strategy. We want to meet you when your strategy doesn't have the need to rise or exhaust the hell out of it. So then, and it was about 4 or 5 centimeters from the top of the sternum, I believe. And I barely had to touch.
You went just onto the start of the rib.
Oh, was it the start of the rib? Oh, that's funny. I always thought it was up here. So
there.
Oh, are you changing my picture? Okay, awesome. And what happened? Because and just so we are very clear with anyone watching or listening, the amount of pressure I was applying was next to nothing. Like if I took 10% more off and moved, all that would have moved would be your t-shirt. But that's not what you were experiencing.
So from the moment you touched my sternum, it was absolute agony, but I was going to fight that. So I was not going to let you know how much pain that was. So I was going, no, I'm not going to show this. I'm going to. And then it felt like you had your whole weight on me. I mean, it really did, Doug. It felt like there must have been at least 14 or 15 stone pushing in there. It was so painful. And then when you came onto the edge of this rib, it was like a floodgate, because it was still excruciatingly painful. I mean, unbelievably painful. But then all that sort of emotion came with it. And I can remember being very frightened. And that's not an experience that I have that often. There isn't very much that does frighten me. I mean, to give you and anybody listening to this at some point in the future, a picture, things that frighten me or have frightened me in my life: waking up in intensive care, getting stuck under a stopper on a big bit of white water, upside down in a kayak, and just
stop. And so a stopper, if I is actually in the rapid where it gets that, it locks you in the circle and you're upside down
in a kayak. Yeah,
in a kayak.
that frightens.
Yeah, because it's helpless.
So that's
how much you want to fight. It goes, fight me if you like, but I'm I'm bigger than you.
So it was that sort of fear, and it was really, and I can remember,
and I'm sure it was a pinky, because I often pull out the pinky just to demonstrate there's no pressure going on.
and I can remember this overwhelming feeling of relief when you stopped, and then just this sort of crazy kaleidoscope of pictures and memories and emotions. And I don't really remember getting off the table and walking. I remember turning around at the end of the room and walking back, but I don't remember walking down the room at all. That's just like autopilot stuff. I was the bizarrest experience, but the outcome of it was just this. It's hard to put it. Like something had gone. I can't really put it in any better words now. Just something had gone. Something had
and Norman, you know what's amazing? Just again to give people context, we're 11 months after this incident, after this, because this is my last training before we all went into lockdown. And so you've had time to find the words and to find the and some things, because it so falls into the realm of what we don't know that we don't know, and don't know that we don't know isn't only intellectual, it's also a physical, it's a feeling within our physiology. So our physiology can't even understand, because it doesn't have a language, because we didn't grow up with a language to be able to understand or to even describe what we feel. And that's okay. You know,
but there's something that's gone and it's never come back. There are times when, if I get wound up about something, or you know, if I'm doing something that's a choice now to get that little bit of a buzz, I sort of get a little bit of a feel of it, but it's hard to put words to what. I don't really know what it is that I feel, but I almost now, I start to feel it and then come away from it. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, you have a choice. You have a choice. You could go towards it or you can move away from it, and now you have a choice.
And exactly, and the choice now is I actually don't want that anymore, which is
wonderful.
Spent probably 4 decades, 5 decades nearer being like that, and now, I don't think I'd swim a rapid again, Doug. I don't think I need to do that to get satisfaction in my life, to get happiness in it.
Sure.
It's just I don't need that. I've got these great little kids here to give me a second family, and I've got my 2 grown-up kids who, having grown up and had to live with the loss of their mother, have become fabulous young people. And life is where I need it and want it to be now, and I don't need that level of that adrenaline rush. I know it's still in me. I'm not going to get rid of that. That's who I am.
Yeah. But have you noticed that you can actually get that same rush in doing really normal things too? Like with your kids.
Yeah.
That something happens, an experience that you're witnessing with them.
And
that's crazy. In order to feel this before, I needed to get on a plane and go find crazy rapids, but that same incredibleness from a place of
You know,
that word, that mindfulness.
what it's really given me, and it's like now you've just said that, and I think, well, yeah, of course. When my two grown-ups were little, I didn't really see them growing up. I was working 60, 70 hours a week at work, and when I wasn't working, I was bashing myself on a rugby pitch or in the gym training. And yeah, now just seeing my little dude who's 2 next month trying to climb up a tree up in the woodlands that we take the dogs walking in, watching my little girl who's 7 in a couple of months' time, like 25 foot up a fir tree. That's the buzz that I'm getting now. And you know, sort of suddenly finding myself, instead of going, yeah, go on, you can go high now, going, whoa, that's maybe high enough, Grace. It's time to come down a little bit now. And sort of weirdly recognizing in her that sort of, wow, I love this buzz from being up here. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I do like it.
That's very cool. Just something that pops into my head is that, you know, psoas is the muscle of grace.
Yeah.
and the psoas is the initiator of all movement. And when done from a zone 1 expanded out, is graceful and beautiful and has ease and flow. And so it's quite beautiful for me that your 7-year-old daughter is called Grace. Tell her she has a wonderful, wonderful name.
Grace? Yeah. Douglas says you have a wonderful name.
Oh, wow. Okay, you got me there. Wow. Well, geez, no time like right now to do stuff. I like that. That's awesome. So, Norman, when you've gone into working with clients, so you've taken, because obviously here's this big experience that you've had. And oh, actually, before I go into this, I think the really important part so level 2, so you did 4 days in a row. So on level 2, we had a lot of people who did level 1 and level 2 with you. And so what was interesting was in you sharing your story, when we almost did another checking in and a hello session, the people who weren't there, we needed to explain to them what happened. So I started explaining, and then I thought, no. Let's get somebody else who was there to explain. And that person explained, and I looked at them and went, wow, that's interesting. That's what you saw. Let's get somebody else to describe what they saw. And we had, I think, 3, maybe 4 people. And each one of them described you getting off the table and the 10 or 15 minutes that followed of you finding and expanding and roaring, and each one of them described it so completely differently that you'd kind of go, okay, there really are good drugs going on in this room. Because but actually what it shows so beautifully is that everything that we see in our lives, everything that we experience in our lives goes through the filter of our physiology. So we all were witness to the same Norman getting off the table, having this beautiful expansion, very intense, very raw, for some very scary, for you at a moment, very scary too, because it was that different, that opening. But having 4 people describe their experience, it's like, did you guys watch 4 different movies? Because that's not the same. And so it's such a big thing, because you know it's like you know there's a problem if you have 5 people who are telling the police about an incident they saw, and if they all say the same thing, then it's a setup, because we never see the same thing. If you all describe the hijacker differently, then you know that you're onto the right thing. But if everyone describes perfectly, it's a setup, because we all experience through our physiology, that and the filters and what information comes in and what is extracted. So someone will say, oh, and when Norman did this, it was scary, and someone else goes, what do you mean scary? He didn't do that, he did this. No, he did both of those things actually. And all of those is this amazing thing of called our physiology. And if your like physiology only allows you this view, this one here, boom, that's all you can see. And if someone's sitting next to you, their view is here and that's all they can see, you can be seeing the same incident and you can fight over who's right and who's wrong, because this is what I saw and there's no way you can't tell me that that's what happened. And somebody else will go, no, this is what I saw and there's no way you can't tell me that that happened. And now we have conflict. If we choose for somebody has to be right, now we have conflict. And the question is, can't we open physiology up so that both go, oh wow, that is what I saw, but I didn't realize this was available too. Oh, that is what I saw, but this also was available. And so this whole process, this almost opening that doorway and then suddenly going, holy crap, I didn't even know this world existed, which you were saying before. It's like, that's the opening up of our awareness, the opening up that, because when you only have this, the only answer would be fight it, step into it, beat the crap out of it, hit it harder than it's going to hit you, numb it out, disconnect. In order to survive here, I've got to numb out, disconnect. So the pain may be great, but I can't feel it. But eventually, because I'm so numb and disconnected, I have to go harder because I do want to feel something. And then suddenly we go, hey, but Norman, to your physiology, of course, look over here. Look what else is there. And it's like, okay, where did that come from? And it's been there all along.
Yeah.
And this side, it's been there all along. And so the beauty of this process is all we're doing is we're opening up this awareness and awareness and awareness. And the greater the awareness, the greater the choice. The more you realize that that is a story. But if you tell that story from this perspective, a different reference point, the story changes. And considering that we're all in a world of some seriously crazy stories being bombarded to us all the time, you realize that if every time you get the same perspective, you're not seeing the whole picture. I want to find people who, I hear something and I go, this is what I think. And someone comes along and goes, Doug, that's so stupid. I don't want to go, no, it's not, and be clever and fight for, I want to go, why is it stupid? And then they will hopefully give their position of what they think and maybe expand my view. And the problem that we have with the world at the moment is because we're all in fear and uncertainty and fatigue, all of those things collapse our physiology, and people live in this tiny little band. I watched it yesterday. So yesterday morning, a lot of our businesses opened up after Christmas. And so I had to go to my manufacturer for the D-rings and the blue webbing for the bungee and the carabiners and all of that. And there are 4 people there in the office. And I've been working with them on and off since 2008. So I know them well, we banter. But it's amazing how the conversation first day back at work is our level 3 lockdown goes till the 15th of January, but already circulating first thing on a work day is it looks like we're going to go into a level 4 or level 5 lockdown. This is what's going on. So I started my Monday morning out here. And when I left the manufacturers about 45 minutes later, I was here, and then I went to drop it off at my seamstress, and she's not there. But her husband's there, and he's great because he knows everything that's going on, but all the conspiracies as well. And so I actually said to him, yeah, I'm highly energized today, but I'm feeling grouchy after my last thing. And then he and I continued our conversation, and I can guarantee you by the time I left there, I had narrowed more because we both agreed. So we were agreeing, and it really messed with my day yesterday. because when I came home, I'd said to Amy, I've got lots to do now, because there's a good chance that when our president comes on Thursday, this is what's going to happen. And then I now put her on a search. So she checks in with her network, who then fires stuff back going, yes, it looks like we're going into level 4. This is what it'll look like, which is scary. And then the next message comes through, oh, now he's going to speak tonight. So my yesterday afternoon went from starting here and slowly, because basically everything was more is going to be taken away. It's going to get more difficult. There's going to be more struggle, all of those things. And it was amazing to watch. It was amazing to observe myself suddenly having to totally redirect my energy on, if this, like a scenario planner, if we shut down to a level 4, then I need to do this in advance, because the last time if you don't do that, then you lose out. But it was so amazing, because I realized how your narrative gets influenced. So when Cyril Ramaphosa came on and spoke last night, eventually he goes, and we are staying on level 3 for another month. And I promise you, South Africa did this. Actually, we shouldn't have been. We should have been going, no, that's ridiculous, technically. But the narrative that was being sent out for the whole day, probably the weekend as well, I just wasn't looking, was we're going into a more extreme lockdown and a more extreme lockdown. And so when people are controlling our narrative, so if you're expecting a 4 or a 5 and you offered a 3, which is where you're already at, and it's not where you want to be, you're grateful. And Amy and I sat watching the presentation and went, and then all I could think in my head was, fuck, I've been played. By whoever, not the government, by social media, by other people's narratives, because I've spent my whole day planning for us locking down for a month. I even wrote up there, okay, it looks like it's going to be 30 days. What's your 30-day lockdown challenge going to be this time? All these strategies, all these things. This is physiology being influenced because I allowed my focus to get narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. And I have a big smile on my face today. Why? Because I can see that's what happened. And the problem is that most people can't see that. They don't catch themselves. They don't know that they can catch themselves. And so I think we're not in the business of teaching people what the answer is. What we want to teach them is that there is another way, and whatever that is, you can choose it. But is that the answer? No, I don't know. But it's certainly, this opening does something.
And it's, I think in my work, I think what it's made me more aware of is that if people aren't ready, they're not ready. You can't make them ready. And so you can have done all your activations, you can have got zone 1, you can ask them to get up and go for a walk, ask them how it feels, and you're seeing that they're different. You're looking at them going, wow, you move, it's so much more fluid, you're upright, you've got hip extension, and you'll ask them, well, how does that feel? Doesn't feel any different. And it used to frustrate the hell out of me. I'd go, so what do you mean it doesn't feel different?
Can't you see what I can see?
Now I go,
no, actually, I can't.
Okay. Well, all I can tell you is that what I'm seeing, but if you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. Because I have a nice barometer with my wonderful partner, with Lynn, because Lynn is someone who, like me, is a bit of an adrenaline junkie, a bit of a risk taker. It's how we met and sort of got on, and she was my partner in crime when we did our crazy stuff in Canada, but she is the most non-compliant person in the world, to the point where about 4 years ago I went, right, I'm never working with you again. I don't care what it is. You can be in agony. You find yourself a physio. You find yourself a chiro. You find yourself somebody to work with, because I'm not working with anymore, because there is no point. And we laugh about it now, but it was at that time I was sort of like, all aggression and no, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing it. And now probably I could work with her, but
Well,
we've sort
we,
of got.
we have a rule in our house, and it's very important because it keeps me sane. If you don't ask, you don't get. And I can watch I can watch anyone actually. I've learned it's a skill. So something you can learn. I can watch people in agony and pain, and I can support them, and then I can love them. But I don't have to work with them or work on them, and I don't have to fix them. And so it's it's kind of, I'll go, this is what we could do. When you're ready, if you're ready, you need to ask me. So and the reason I do that is so I can put it down, because otherwise I'm constantly in Doug work mode. But if I hand over the responsibility to the people in my world who want to be better, to them, then it's up to them to ask, and then it's up to me to say yes or no.
I think one
Whereas,
of the
whereas if I've got to fix, then I'm the one that stays on all the time. And then I'm the one getting frustrated, and I'm the one getting pissed off because, well, I'm not much better. Yes, but you're not doing what I told you to do. It doesn't work much, does it?
No, but I think the interesting thing that I found from moving to doing the Be Activated as my sort of almost the only thing that I do in the sport therapy now is, in the past I would work with somebody and they'd go away and I'd never see them again. They'd come, they'd got what they wanted out, the 1, 2, 3, 4, however many sessions it was, and then I'd never see them again. And with the Be Activated, even the people who go, well, yeah, thanks very much, but it didn't really done much for me. A month's time, 2 months' time, at some point, they come back. So even though they're not
Because they
ready,
don't know what it was and they don't have the words for it, but something is different.
yeah,
And I don't know
yeah,
what it is, but please, can I have some more?
yeah. And that's been quite a sort of a game changer, really, because again, it gets rid of some of that frustration of, in the past I'd sort of worked with somebody and they go away really happy and saying, oh, it was great, and I never see them again. I go, what did I do? If I got something wrong, they can't possibly have,
You feel a
like,
little
and
dirty,
that
don't
sports
you?
people, yeah, I feel like, I've been rejected, and it, and the Be Activator is not like that. It just isn't. And even people that I might only see once, twice a year, they keep coming back now. And that's, from a business point of view, it's happy days, isn't it? Because it means that I know I've got that security of knowing I'm going to have clientele that will come back.
But that's got to be the rule of life. When you're adding a value, and then people get it and they will come back. And so the game is, how do you add value? And the thing is, in this work, as we discover, some of the values are not tangible. Someone will be having a conversation with you who goes, that's weird, because when I was with you 2 months ago, I didn't really think I felt anything, but something was different when I went back into my world. It was really weird. Like, my relationship with my kids is different. Could that have had anything to do with what we did? And your only answer is, yeah, it could. And you go, well, because the physiology of this. Oh, that makes sense. Because now it's almost like we've taken them to a place, and now they're coming back to get the answers on, can you explain to me how, because this is what I've seen. It doesn't really make sense, but could you help me track back to where I started? So it's almost like we've had a session, which the session actually was the before. The assessment is 2 months of going back into your life, and the after is walking back to understand and explain, or help them understand how that tracks. And then suddenly you go, well, actually, those are the ones that the compliance goes through the roof. because now you've got a change, no matter how much we can't describe it, with an understanding on what it is that happened.
And I also think that the complexity and the depth of their story will develop over the session. So they start and they're giving you their story. You've done your history with them and you've got their story from them. And then 3 or 4 sessions down the line, suddenly there's more of this story. It's like they're putting more colors on the palette. And I guess that's what I've just done with you this morning, because I've told you things this morning that perhaps I've not even verbalized to many people at all. But it's almost like that change in your physiology allows that freedom for those emotions to get verbalized. Did that sort of...
Well, 100%. The way I see, like, would interpret what you just said was, because I have a greater level of connection and strength inside myself, something that a moment before was vulnerable feels less vulnerable. So something I would have to hold and hide, you know, my silence, my secrecy, and my shame would be what Brené Brown would say. You know, the things I'd have to hold on to. Now I actually feel strong enough that it doesn't feel so scary to share it. In fact, it feels good to share it. It feels like I am letting go, or I am empowering, or and you realize that all happened because the physiology basically said to the brain, you know what, we're stronger now. We're not vulnerable. Like, we're not under threat. We're okay now. You can let this one go. And so it's almost like our brain is allowed to take its focus out of survival. And when it's in more of an opening up, it starts to notice the connections and joins the dots. And so often, you know, that moment when you watch your client join the dots, you can see them almost going ta-da. And you have an aha, you know, and I think, you know, I think the program that I did on Saturday night, the Hack 2021, what's been so beautiful in the feedback is how many people in the field had those aha moments, and they've shared that with me. And I find that those are the things that drive me, because I was sharing what I found, what worked for me. And I didn't know if it would work for everybody else, but you guys took a chance on me. And, you know, I liked your feedback because you weren't at the live thing. So I have it on my phone. And this is what you sent to me. I've just spent 3 hours immersed in your batshit crazy world. Watched it through, then got my kit out and went through it as a participant. Blown away. Just awesome. And that's the point. It's like, so often we go, oh no, I'm here. I've done my work. I don't need to do anymore. And the answer is no. And my answer for me is no. My work is far from done. But when I discover another layer, my job is not my job. It's not my job. It's my choice, is to share it.
If you'd asked me on Friday, no, will you do an interview? I'd have said no. Because this is, I'm not comfortable with this. So yeah, that's a shift, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I will write that story for you. I will write my story. Again, not something I would have done, because I've gone, oh yeah, I'll do that. And back there.
And there are a lot of people who want to write their stories like that, but haven't found, and maybe it is putting your story out there. It is vulnerable. So you have to find a level of strength, or that connectedness to your strength in order to overcome something. Because I think the big thing that is when we're more connected with our body, if I can stand and say, yeah, my body feels strong, not strong, but like strong. Well, in that place of strength, it's very, very difficult for fear to reside as well, because they don't belong together. So the stronger you are in your body, the more connected you are into your body, the less the fear resides there. And fear is the thing that triggers all of those fight, flight, and freezes. And in the world right now, the most common theme is the overwhelm, which is the freeze. And so we can stay in our room. We can stay exactly where you are and find strength in you. And the world that's crazy outside seems just a little less crazy. Why? Because it comes through the filter of our physiology. There's a filter. And the thing that's filtering, I can do something about. And that's when it gets exciting. And so, yeah, so getting in a bungee and taking a thing like this, which, you know, it's so weird for me because it's simple, but that's really always the answer. It's like, how do we make this better? And, you know, in the lead up videos, I showed you guys just half of the different tools that I've gathered over probably less than half over the last 16 years. And there's tons of them, and there's, and all have value. You know, we're not saying they're useless. They're not. They all have value. But nothing gave me an aha in my system where I can come out of it going, I feel different. I am different in how I pitch up in what I do. I'm different when I step out in the world. I'm different here. And so that's what we're here to do, because the thing is that it's so cool because it requires only one person, this one and that one. Yeah. And then we share.
Yeah, it's left me like this.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to convince people that you're an adrenaline junkie. You know that. You're so.
It's just, and I still.
Actually, this has all been a hoax. Actually, Norman is a Buddhist monk. Has been a monk for the last 50 years, and he's just come off his mountain to have a conversation with us.
I'll have to post some photos of my crazy stunts. I've got some photos of some of them.
Excellent. Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Norman, I think that is an awesome part one. I think that's great.